Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I would like to carry on with talking about the Jerry Sandusky trial and note that several of the witnesses have released very damning testimony against him, and his actions have been anything but supportive of his defense. And I would just like to reiterate once again that the masking of this behavior by the institutions, by the Second Mile Foundation, which is now defunct, and by Penn State, and also complicit in this is the state itself here in Pennsylvania for failing to go after this vigorously. Now, we did have Grekar, the district attorney, who was investigating Sandusky for actions in the 90s, who wound up missing, I guess presumed dead. And that was under very mysterious circumstances, with some of his stuff being found in a river, including a laptop without a hard drive. And of course, this illustrates again what I was saying before, that the reason for the cover-up is very obvious, and that is because there is a systematic abuse of children within all of these institutions. Every single one of them. Every fucking one that you could name, there is systematic child molestation and or abuse going on in some fashion. There are people in there who have a privileged fucking position who prey on these children. And they are hidden. They are covered up. The best example that you can possibly find is the Catholic Church. With decades and decades, well, let's rephrase that, centuries and centuries of child molestation and pedophilia within the ranks of the Catholic Church. And I'm sure this is represented in other branches of the so-called Christian churches in the world as well, especially ones that have celibate priests who cannot marry. And that's why it's covered up, because it's systematic, it is pervasive, it is entirely throughout the entire fucking system. This is why these things are covered up, even though people are going to fall beside Sandusky. Now, I see also that the Boy Scouts are releasing their so-called perversion files by court order. And this is allegations of and instances of child molestation and various other kinds of so-called perversion that have occurred within the Boy Scouts organization. And I'm sure it's quite lengthy. And this is another example of an institution that is probably rife with child molestation and pedophilia, because it opens itself up to it by the very nature of it. Get a bunch of boys together, have them out in, some wilderness area or whatever. You're just inviting it. So I can guarantee you that there is a lot of that activity within the Boy Scouts. Now, I still get a lot of grief about my comments about the Constitution and about the United States of America. And I'm just going to boil it down for you. For the real stupid fuckers out there who really want to continue with this stupid mantra of liberty and Constitution and go back to the Constitution and all this other kind of stuff. You have no protection under law as long as the government can do whatever the fuck they want. And they can do whatever the fuck they want. You have a president right now who can murder you extrajudicially, and you have no fucking recourse. He writes your name on a piece of paper, you're fucking dead. End of fucking discussion. Alright? You have no protection. There is none. If the government decides to fucking look at you, they will. They'll find something or cook something up, and they'll fry your ass. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter what the fucking Constitution says. It never did. George Washington himself rode out at the head of the militia to crush the Whiskey Rebellion, what was the Whiskey Rebellion about? My gosh, could it have been against a taxation scheme, which they tried to tell you was the basis of the supposed Revolutionary War, which I assert we may have technically won, but we have never been outside the influence of the crown. And all you have to do is look at the kowtowing and bowing and scraping that our leaders, our elected representatives here in this country, including Barry Soetoro, do to the fucking crown in England. And we should maybe designate things a little bit further, because it was the East India Company, the Virginia Company, you understand? Corporation. It's all a fucking corporation. The City of London is run by corporations. The remnants of the Virginia Company, the East India Company, and all of the other companies owned by the British Crown still own this fucking country. They still run this fucking country. So when I say the government is coming down on you, it's not even that. Because in the future, it's not even going to be the agents of the fucking government that do that activity. It's going to be private fucking contractors that don't even work for the fucking government. So when the government comes down on you, it's not the government coming down on you, it's the corporate masters coming down on you. It's the City of London coming down on you. So spare me the Constitution bullshit, because you don't have any protection by it. You're not a party to it. We've never been free in this country. We've only been led to believe we were free, led to believe that we have had something better than perhaps some other countries around the world. Given the illusion of being free in our serfdom, we've never been out of the clutches of the moneyed elite, the wealthy. You look at Wall Street right now and you see the very parasites that parasite on the back of the governments around the world. And then you turn your eyes to Greece and you see that the Syriza party seems to have failed to get a majority, and therefore will be frozen out of the final decision as to what Greece is going to do about their debt. And as far as I'm concerned, every sovereign nation has the right and the duty to protect the interests of their fucking citizenry, the people that they are supposed to stand for and defend, by telling the parasitical motherfucking banks and finance houses around the fucking world to go get fucking bent. I am not paying your fucking usurious goddamn fucking money back to you, motherfuckers. Fuck you. And that's where we come back to this whole idea of austerity and Austrian economics, which is a derivative of the London School of Economics, which should be no fucking surprise to anybody, because this is the crisis that is facing Europe. There is no such thing as sovereign debt there. It is money that is owned to fucking banks. Banks are owed this money. What's the bailout going to do? It's not going to hire fucking laid off Greek workers. It's going to pay off a parasitical fucking banking system. And that's the fucking problem. And as far as this country goes, I say take over the fucking national debt that is owned by the Federal Reserve by nationalizing the Federal Reserve. March in there and take it over. Cancel out the debt they hold on their books. No more fucking money for Ponzi scheme fucking bankers. And no more bailouts for derivative fucking casino gambling. But you see, that's not going to happen, because we're run by corporations. We are practically a corporation, masquerading as a fucking country. So spare me the ideas about oh, independence, and oh, freedom, and oh, justice, and oh, liberty, and all this other shit that we supposedly have. Because we don't, and we never did. And all you have to do is look back in history. You can find example after example after example where the government, acting on the interests of the people that they really represent, have systematically denied and destroyed the rights supposedly protected by the Constitution. So it's nothing new even. It's just more blatant, in your face, and slap you in the face today. And make no mistake about it. The corporations coming down from the ones that founded this motherfucking shithole country are out there. And they still run the show. They have all the wealth. They decide what companies succeed and what fail. They decide what countries are going to be false flagged or NATO bombed or, humanitarianly liberated. They're the ones that make all these decisions. So, spare me the bullshit. And when it comes to the idea of child molestation and pedophilia, you can damn sure guarantee that every one of these groups, look at the Bohemian Grove, for Christ's sake. They do a mock ritual sacrifice there, the cremation of care, which is in the form of a rather small wrapped bundle which would represent a child. And to think that this kind of stuff does not go on, and it is not widespread, and it is not egregious and horrific, is to just bury your head in the sand. And to think that any of your special organizations like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or any of these other things that you think are so wonderful is without this, you're fooling yourself. And to think that we really live in a free country that gained its independence from the UK, when you have a president of the United States who bows and scrapes and practically slobbers over himself to the Queen. When we do the bidding of London, both financially and militarily. So spare me the bullshit when it comes to that. And I'm not done on the Ron Paul thing either, because I think, and I'm going to tell you right now what I think this whole Ron Paul thing was. When he ran in 2008... the people at the top saw that he was pulling in a lot of young people. When Occupy Wall Street happened, a whole lot of young people all of a sudden got politically active. It went nowhere. Of course, it got co-opted, etc. The only thing it did of any good at all was to focus the attention on the finance capital industry, which has as its North American base Wall Street. And they looked at that and they said, here's a guy who can pull in the youth that are politically active, and it could get people politically active. So let him run with it a bit, and then we'll collapse and crush this whole thing so that it deflates another potential movement from the young. We had this in the 60s, we had it in the 70s, we had it throughout history probably, in every society. Anytime you have a youth that seems to be geared up for political action and organization, it has to be denuded. It has to have all of the energy taken out of it. And the best way to do that is to prop somebody up as some kind of leader figure for you, and then pull out the rug, and all of a sudden you have all of these people wandering around without any leader and without any idea of what they're going to do. So it's taken the wind out of the sails of a lot of young people, which is exactly what it was designed to do. And Ron Paul was completely complicit in this, because he was never running a campaign for president, neither in 2008 or this year. So it's all been about trying to build up that momentum amongst the youth and then crushing it. That's the entire purpose of his campaign. Crushing any kind of youthful organization or dissent. And now what you're left with is Romney, who is a Wall Street so-called Republican, and Obama, who is a Wall Street so-called Democrat, whose policies are virtually identical, who, no matter which one is in office, will do nothing but enrich the rich, kill more people around the world, and expand the American empire, which is really just a corporate empire disguising as a country. And it is derivative of the crown and England, and it also lends itself to hiding the most evil things within society, because let us not forget the Franklin scandal when it comes to pedophilia and child molestation, which had direct federal involvement in shutting down investigations and in intimidating witnesses and everything else. So this is all throughout the entire government. It's all throughout corporate America. It's all throughout everything within our society. And when you have complicity, when you have intimidation, you have cover-up, and you have this being covered up by the other entity on top, it just goes to show you how widespread, systematic, and absolutely horrifying the true state of affairs is. And you want to talk about Constitution? You want to talk about law? You want to talk about what? Give me a break. When you have corporate overlords, no law is going to save you, because what? You have Monsanto buying private armies? What's next? Goldman Sachs have a private army? J.P. Morgan and the saintly Jamie Dimon have his own private army to protect him and to protect his company? Yes. That's where it's heading. And none of this stuff is ever going to be exposed, because we're a corporation masquerading as a country. And the corporation is run by subsidiary corporations. And it is all made to work by money. And whoever has the most makes the rules. And whoever has the most gets to do whatever they want, including raping and molesting your children, because they're above the law. That's the facts. It's the facts. It's not pretty, it's not nice, but it's the truth, as I see it. Thank you. Good night.